Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be beauty related. I think this is the first beauty related video that I've posted on this channel since I combined all of my channels into the one. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back a couple of videos and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and get on into today's video. It is going to be first impressions slash a wear test on a couple of different items. Both items are for the eyes. The first one is the new Lorac Pro Palette 4. I'm not exactly sure when this released. I know I did see pictures of it online and was kind of like, meh. I'll probably pass on it. The Miss Lolyn posted a video today using this palette and kind of doing a quick review and swatches. And one of the things that she did say was that it looked like a lot of light shades, but when she actually swatched the shades and used them on her eyes, they weren't anywhere near as light as she expected. So they have a lot more pigmentation to them than you would expect just seeing like the pictures and seeing them in the pan. So I decided that I had to have it. Her look that she did in her video was gorgeous. And Kohl's actually was having a 20% off sale on all their makeup and fragrances. So I got this for $35 and a little bit of change. And then the other item that I'm working with today is new from Kat Von D. And I actually saw like a, Pop Sugar or Trend Mood or something posted about this, that she was releasing different versions of her Trooper eyeliner, and one of the things was called the Lash Liner, and this is a liquid eyeliner that is specifically made for the waterline. It's not supposed to smudge, it's not supposed to bleed. It like sets down in like 15 seconds or so and will not budge. So we're going to be testing that today. I have a huge problem with my inner corner like really bleeding out and when I put eyeliner in there. So what I generally do is put the Tarteist eyeliner, like pencil liner, down, setting it with like Corrupt from Makeup Geek, and then putting Makeup Forever's M10, their black eyeliner, down over that, and then setting that with black liner, or the black Corrupt shadow. And that tends to work fairly well, even though it still does bleed, but it doesn't bleed as much. So we are testing this and doing a wear test on this. Let's go ahead and get into this look. Basically, I just showed you the eyes. On my cheeks, I have MAC Breath of Plum, and for my blush. And on my lips, I have the Melted Matte Lipstick in Queen Bee. And on top of that, I have ColourPop's Ultra Glossy Lip in the shade Moonchild, their collaboration with Kathleen Lights. So let's go ahead and I will show you the eye look, and then after the jump, we'll come back and talk about the eyeshadow palette. Okay, so here is the outside of the packaging, and the first thing that I am going to do is take the third shade in on the top, called the Pecan or Pecan, whichever way you like to say it, with my Sonia Kashuk number 109 brush, and I'm just going to place that in the crease. This shade, as I will mention later, is in the Mega Pro 3 palette, and this one is more pigmented than that shade in the Mega Pro 3. So I was very happy with that. You can see I'm like, whoa, okay, I can deal with this. So Ms. Lolyn was right. She did say that these were much more pigmented than you would expect, and she was absolutely correct. So then I'm just building this up a little bit. It didn't take much, but just a little bit. I always kind of go over my crease shade a couple of different times just to make sure I get the intensity that I am looking for. So I'm just going to keep on building this up here, just going back and forth, windshield wiper motions, circular motions. Yeah, know the drill. So then the next shade that I will pick up in the palette is called Amaretto. And this one in the palette looks a little bit like a chocolate brown, a little bit of warmth to it. but it actually plays very well with the cooler tones in this palette. And I'm just bringing that down into my outer V and into my crease to mix with that pecan shade. And I was very impressed with that pigmentation as well. And I'm just using that same number 109 brush, just keeping it real simple here. After I get my desired intensity with that amaretto shade, I will take a Sigma E25 and go into the shade Black Currant. I love this shade. It is such a pretty shade. It almost looks black in the palette, but it is definitely got a lot of plum undertone to it, as you can see there on my eye. And of course, just doing that on both eyes and going back and forth to make sure that I get the intensity that I want. I find it best to add a little bit, go in, take a look, and then go in if I'm not satisfied with that intensity and just build it up a little bit more. After I got the Black Currant shade down, I went in with my Sonia Kashuk number 109 brush just to kind of blend the edges and get everything nice and seamless that I have already created on the eye. However, I decided that this was not dramatic enough. So I took my E25 Sigma brush, the same one that I used for the Black Currant, and I dipped it into the shade Midnight in the palette. Midnight is like the black, straight up black in the palette, and I just took it right along the lash line, as you can see there. And then I went back in, kind of dusted off that brush, back into Black Currant, and just kind of went back and forth between Black Currant and Midnight until I got the amount of drama that I desired on my eye. And even though Midnight is straight up black, it blended very, very nicely and worked very, very well with the Black Currant shade. I usually am very intimidated with black shadows, but this one is just perfect. Just perfect. And you can see I'm just going back over, blending, 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 blending. So then after I have gone back and forth, as you see here, and I kept Midnight kind of low on my eye because I didn't want it to turn into a black smoky eye. I just kept it very low, kept blending it and blending it and blending it. And then I went back over with that number 109 Sonia Kashuk brush for one final little blend over everything to kind of blur those lines. So then I could not decide which lid shade I wanted to do, but I ended up choosing Iced Rose. That is the first shade that I am putting on there just with my finger. Fingers are your best tools. And you can tell from my face that I really, really like that shade. It is beautiful. And I decided after putting that on that I wanted something just a little bit brighter. So I went into the shade Soft Pearl and applied that right on top of the Iced Rose. And I really like that shade too. And they blend really nicely together and make just this gorgeous kind of bright rosy gold, but with a little bit of beige in there. You know what I'm saying? You'll see what's going on there. And then I just took my E25 and just kind of blurred out the edges where the darker shades meet the lighter shades. That is the top of the eyes pretty much done. So now we're going to go into the second item here, and that is the Kat Von D Lash Liner. Figured why not give it a shot. And that is the wand. It literally is like a sponge tip applicator almost. And it was a really interesting feeling putting like this liquid eyeliner on my waterline, because that's the feeling you get when you put the your liner on your lid and it was going in your eye. It did burn. That is one thing. I don't think I mentioned any of my check-ins, but it did burn. I went completely out of focus doing the lower lash line, so that's why all of a sudden I have it in the bottom waterline as well. But we're just going to finish up the eyes here. As you can tell, going out of frame again, but I just copied everything in the crease. So we started out with pecan, then a little bit of amaretto, a little bit of black currant, and then I took a little bit of the midnight shade and just tapped it on the very, very outer corners of the eye just to connect it to the upper lash line. And to do that, I used my Real Techniques shading brush. That particular brush is amazing for the lower lash line and smudging out shadow underneath the lower lash line. After I placed the midnight shade, as I did on the upper lid space, I went back over with some black currant to help blend it out and smudge it out and all of that good stuff. Like I said, just copying from the top lid to the bottom, and I really do like the way that these shadows blend and the pigmentation, all of that good stuff. Lorac hit it out of the park yet one more time. After I finish that, I will go over with my Sigma E25 and just kind of blend everything out one final time just to make sure everything is seamless and really super blown out, because it's very, very smoky. So let's just blow it on out. As you can see, my eyes started to water just a little bit from the liquid liner, I think. And yeah, so not a bad palette at all. And I will now turn it back over to Past Bree to talk more about my thoughts on the palette and do all the check-ins for the Kat Von D Lash Liner starting now. I do really like the Lorac Pro formula, and everything blended pretty well. I just kind of did a similar look actually that Miss Lola Lynn did. I will link that as well. But I definitely agree with her. There are a couple of redos in this. The shade Pecan was in the Mega Pro 3, and it's definitely more pigmented in this palette than it is in the Mega Pro 3. And I think there are a couple of different shades that were in the Mega Pro 1, which I don't own, so I'm not quite sure, but I think that's what Mrs. Lola Lynn said, or somebody in her comments mentioned. But I think they've kind of retouched them and brought a little bit more pigment maybe into them, and so far I really do like this palette a lot. And of course, just keep watching. We're gonna keep talking about this as we go on throughout the day. Okay, so the time is 3:39. I've had this waterline liner from Kat Von D in my waterline for almost an hour now. There has been no bleeding that I can see, and it is still as pigmented and, you know, there as it was when I first did it. So far so good, Kat Von D. Okay, so it is currently 6:32, so it's been almost 4 hours. So I put this eyeliner on at 250. As you can see, it is kind of wearing a little bit and bleeding right here. This is what I always have a problem with, but it is like starting to gather now. This eye is not so bad, but this eye is starting to feather. So it is about 8:30, so I've had this eyeliner on for almost 6 hours, so just over 5.5 actually. And I don't like it, guys. Look. See if my camera will focus. You can see there's a lot of bleeding around the inner corners, which is what I get a lot with eyeliner in my waterline. So I'm kind of disappointed that this was meant specifically for the waterline and it's not working. And, you know, of course I didn't set it, I just put it on. I think it's going to go back. The actual eyeshadow is holding out pretty well. I've been looking in the mirror. It hasn't creased or faded or anything, which is exactly what I was expecting from that palette. So, good on the Lorac Pro Palette 4, bad on the Kat Von D Lash Liner. So, that will be it for this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell and all that jazz. You know what to do. I love you, and I will see you soon. Bye.